Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. This is a series of reflections in the text source methodology in Islamic jurisprudence by our teacher, Dr. Taha Jabir al-Alwani. It's a very brief text, very dense. It's proliferated all over the internet, so one can find it easily. It's probably one of the most widespread texts in the English language on usul al-Fiqh, at least from what I know in the US. And is probably one of the least understood texts. The text may read easily, but there's much to be uncovered and unpacked. And it is our desire as a service to our teacher, Dr. Taha Jabir, Hafidhullah, to try to approach the text in a way which will do it justice and clarify some of its contents so that we see what a treasure the text is. Firstly, Dr. Taha Jabir, he begins chapter 1. It's entitled Usul al-Fiqh Methodology for Research and Knowledge in Islamic Jurisprudence. And in that sense, the text is limiting the meaning of Usul al-Fiqh, because it says Usul al-Fiqh Methodology for Research and Knowledge in Islamic Jurisprudence. On the other hand, that translation is incorrect. When we look at the original Arabic text, we see that it says Ta'rifu ilm al-usul al-fiqh. And that is now keeping within the spirit of the institute that published the text, IIIT. And keeping in line with the methodology of our Shaykh, Hafidhullah. And that's that usul al-fiqh, as other ulama have said in this time period, like Sheikh Ali Juma, the former Mufti of Egypt. It's minhajul bahth wa ma'rifah. So, usul al-fiqh al-Islami is a methodology for research and understanding. The term ma'rifah is very complicated to translate because in the Arabic language it doesn't necessarily equate knowledge. That's why we call Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala alim and we don't call him arif. Because the word ma'rifah and its specific arif means that there was a state before their understanding, which can be determined as a state of ignorance. And the person that's an alim, so to speak, in here we're talking about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, is all-knowing. So there's some technicalities here. We don't want to get into them too deep, but just to point that out. Usul al-Fiqh, methodology for research and knowledge. The text says the definition of Usul al-Fiqh is the science of source methodology in Islamic jurisprudence. It has been defined as the aggregate considered per se of legal proofs and evidence that when studied properly will lead either to certain knowledge of a Sharia ruling, or to at least a reasonable assumption concerning the same, a Sharia ruling. The manner by which such proofs are adduced and the status of the adducer. It's a little complicated as far as the definition is concerned. Usul al-Fiqh is concerned with three areas of knowledge. But before going into it, what those three areas of knowledge are, let's look at the term usul al-Fiqh. Usul is the plural of the term asl. Asl means principle. If we use the plural, it means principles. Now, there's other meanings there in the Arabic language to be ascribed to this word, but we will suffice with this principle. Usul al-Fiqh, mudaf wa mudaf ilayh. The principles of what? Fiqh also in the Arabic language has a multiplicity of meanings. Here we take the term understanding. Principles of understanding. So usul al-Fiqh in essence is a research methodology or system of methodologies which will allow us to delve into these three areas to understand. Now, usul al-Fiqh is concerned with the Arabic language as a system of meaning. So it lays out some principles to help us to detect patterns in the Arabic language which occur, in this case, in the Quran and the Sunnah with regularity. So once we understand those patterns, then we're able to derive meaning. We're able to come to a conclusion about what something means. If you understand the form in which something is said, then it's clear to deduce meaning, to derive meaning from that, to come to a conclusion about what's being said. It's concerned with the principles of research. So those tools that we need to be put in place to come to a conclusion on a matter in a systematic way. And the criteria that qualifies one to do research. And I would add here the criteria that determines something as a source in the Sharia. Now, when you look at, for instance, like Sheikh Ali Juma, he says something that's very important about usul al-Fiqh. He says that usul al-Fiqh as a methodology of research was used by Francis Bacon. Those of you who don't know Francis Bacon, you just don't stop here and say, well, we don't know Francis Bacon. You go and you do research. Francis Bacon is known as a great intellectual in Western science, and he's accredited with the scientific method. Well, the claim is that that method was borrowed from the Muslim world and it came from usul al-Fiqh. It was inverted so that rather than studying the Quran and the Sunnah as a text, the world became a text. So usul al-Fiqh was used as a methodology to understand the world and the principles that are regular within it. Very deep insight. And it actually meshes very well with the concept that Allah Ta'ala descended the book and created the book. Descended the book is the descension of the Quran. Created the book is the creation of the universe, which is a book to be read, and we're part of that universe. We're not separate from the universe. We're part of that universe. We're part of nature. So the Quran indicates to us to read the signs in the horizons and within ourselves, teaching us that we're part of one large book that was created. So both the Quran and the universe are means to come to an understanding, as far as a source of understanding. And that means that we use to understand the means, the Quran and the Sunnah, because they point to something beyond themselves. They point to Allah wa ta'ala. They point to truth. They point to realities. That means that we use to understand the sources of knowledge, which are a means to the knowledge of Allah and truth and so on and so forth, is usul al-Fiqh. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر لي ولكم والحمد لله رب العالمين.